Folks, it's Busy Boy here reporting live at 6:04 Vancouver time. And right now, Woody Boy's sleeping. It was a long week for us at the Barstool offices, and we have some more breaking news on this Swayman controversy. And that's what we can call it at this point, G. I think it's fair to say that there is so many moving pieces. I don't know what or who to believe.
Show is what it is.
So later on today, this is from Louis Gross, who represents Jeremy Swayman, his agent. Normally, I do not release statements or discuss negotiations through the media. However, in this case, I feel I need to defend my client. At today's press conference, $64 million was referenced. This was the first time that number was discussed in our negotiations. Prior to the press conference, no offer was made reaching that level. We are extremely disappointed. This was not fair to Jeremy. We will take a few days to discuss where we go from here. So, basically, Jeremy Swayman's agent is saying that is not factual, that the Bees never sent over that type of number, which would assume an 8 times 8, right, G?
Yep. 64, 8 times 8.
We did discuss a little bit earlier. We heard rumblings that there was an offer that was a little lower than that did come in. I don't have confirmation on that. I don't know if that's factual. So let's just take exactly what we know now, and the fact that Cam Neely did say those words. And I can't say that Cam Neely's lying. Maybe, just maybe, he misunderstood or got information that was going to be the Bruins offer over to them and was not in that original conversation. So before the press conference was kind of loaded with that number in his mind. And maybe he's like, oh God, like what have I done? Maybe that is in fact the case. And they're working this thing through the night and maybe making a statement on their own. But I think what basically now the public opinion is, and the fact that the Bruins maybe try to sway it back to their side, because we discussed it earlier. If it was 8 times 8, myself and Whit, and I'm sure majority of Bruins fans, given with what the organization and its fan base have provided Swayman, that would be more than enough of an offer to get him to re-sign and remain a Bruin. My feeling is that this is an organization that in the past, G, they have locked in these superstars and these people that have meant so much to their organization, and guys that are going to go to the rafters at very fair contracts in which they've outplayed. Then all of a sudden, you get a guy like Pasta who's proven himself time and time again. That they got him for market value, right? That's not a bargain by any means. That's today's standard. And then obviously the McAvoy deal, and that's today's standard. There's no bargain there. I think that they've had the mindset that they were going to be able to lock in Swayman at one of these Marchand or Patrice Bergeron types deals. That is not the case, especially in the way things transpired in arbitration. They were never going to get that. What they were going to get was probably this summer, if they would have handled this appropriately and went over and said, here's an offer at 8 years time, probably, I bet you, G, maybe even at that case could have said 7 times 7.75, maybe
Saros
even 7.
deal. Take the Saros deal.
The Saros deal. This is all we have, but you're our guy. You're our goalie of the future. This is 8 years. No, they never did that. They basically gave him the 4 times 6.2. And I know the discrepancy on the lack of communication over the 3 weeks wasn't that they were ignoring his phone calls. It was the fact that they didn't speak. But to hear that when you want to lock in your future fucking goalie is ridiculous. And in trying to gain back public opinion and throwing out that number, and now hearing that offer never came in, is just catastrophic in my opinion, to the point where I actually think that there's a trade that is going to happen as a result from this.
Biz, I actually feel the same way, and I never thought that until this point now, but it finally, reality is hitting Bruins fans, and all my Bruins fans group chats are starting to say the same thing. How can they fix this? You know what I mean? If 8 times 8's not getting it done, how can they fix this, especially with all the past shit? And then I have a question for you too. So Louis Gross's agent obviously represented William Nylander during Nylander's lockout. Now, there were some talks that I saw some reports that he was withholding information from William Nylander, and then once Nylander and Dubas had a conversation, they got the deal done. Do you think that's something that could be happening here with him and Swayman?
Absolutely correct, and that's a good point. So some people are currently right now questioning what's true from Louis Gross's side. I don't know. I'm just telling you guys what's being said. Obviously, we throw our own spice in it. I think you guys understand when it's our spice. From what I heard was William Nylander regretted holding out that whole time. Wish he just would have signed the deal that was presented to start the season and avoid all the bullshit. And that he didn't even essentially, like you said, need the agent to finish the deal, where once Dubas and William Nylander got on the phone, that's when the deal ended up getting done, and he just wasted his time. So I don't know this agent. I don't know Louis Gross. I don't know what type of methods he has in negotiating, and I don't know if maybe some of the ways that he approached the Nylander situation are being used now. All I know is that they are denying the fact that $64 million ever came across their desk. So if he's lying, Louis Gross, and the Bees aren't, now all of a sudden that might set off the Bees to a point where they're saying, we don't want these fucking headaches anymore. Let's ship this guy out of here. But in fact, if they never slid that over and they try to use the fans in mainstream media essentially to gain public opinion back on their side, I still see it resulting in trade. But oh my God, would that ever be just a horrendous look for the Bees in trying to flex their muscles and really landing flat in all of this. I'm not picking a side yet. There is still way too much to unfold.
Team Swayman.
The assumption is that 8 times 8 was offered. And that's why I was shocked, where I'm like, God, like that is such a good, fair deal for this kid. And right now, and one other theory I do have is my theory is that offering a little bit less than that, let's say it was 62 million was the offer that the Bruins had, in Neely saying that he's got 64 million reasons why, was maybe Neely and their staff basically saying, send over the fucking paperwork at 8 times 8 and we'll get this thing done. But now they're getting a little bit more slimy on their side based on the sliminess from the Bees side. So I think this is extremely, extremely ego-driven at this point. And that's why I didn't think that Neely was necessarily lying. That was basically them extending their hand saying 64 gets this done, you motherfucker. Get your guy in a camp and let's get this cup contending team moving.
I think you're exactly spot on there too, Biz, because when you go back and look at the statement, he mentioned 64 million, that exact number, before the press conference. That number had not been offered before the press conference. I feel like if it was that 4-year, $6.2 million offer that we heard, the statement would have been like that. The contract that was offered was nowhere in the realm of 64 million, but he's saying 64 million. So I feel like it could be like 61, 62, like we're hearing. And now they're being particular about it. And just like you said, Neely's like, hey, take it or fucking leave it.
Right. And like, it's just like, that's why to go back is like, if that's what Neely was doing and essentially extending his hand, but not like, nobody wanted to swallow their pride is what I'm saying.
Egos.
Send over the paperwork where he's saying now publicly because they did it. It's a cat fight. Meow. It's a cat fight. So
gun to your head, Biz. Gun to your head. How does this end?
I think that cooler heads prevail. And I think think about where we're at right now. I bet you Bruins could have gotten a little bit of a discount if they would have went to this guy in the summer and said, here's 8 times 7.5. This, if you take this, we really have the opportunity to put pieces around you, the final pieces, in order to win a Stanley Cup. And based on how they've handled it, he's like, no, fuck you. And his agent, with the history that it has, is probably the wrong agent in this situation, to where this is why. Get your popcorn ready, folks. The NHL season is underway, and we can leave it at that.